The film opens in the Amazon rainforest, where a native woman and her child are gathering food. Their routine is abruptly disrupted by a bulldozer that is tearing down the forest. Then it turns out to be in the university, where student activist groups are staging a protest and a hunger strike on the university grounds, advocating for the healthcare rights of janitors. They are also raising their voices to protect the Amazon rainforest. This commotion awakens Justine, who tries to see what's happening outside. The light from the window and the noise also wake up Justine's roommate and her boyfriend, both of whom are irritated by the disturbance. Later, Justine and her friend Casey head to a cafe. As they are about to go to class, Casey expresses her disapproval of their actions, believing they are only doing this to appear as if they care. On their way, they notice activist groups assembling and Alejandro singing. Casey finds him creepy, but Justine thinks he's charismatic. As Casey questions if he's the type of man Justine is looking for, Alejandro's girlfriend arrives and kisses him, leaving Justine disappointed. In class, their friends are shocked by a lecture on female circumcision, a practice still performed by native tribes globally. The professor reveals that nearly 2 million girls undergo this annually and shows the tool used. Justine, horrified, questions why the government hasn't intervened, mentioning her father's role as a UN attorney. However, the professor explains that despite past efforts, external forces can't fully interfere with another country's customs and beliefs. Post-lecture, Jonah from ACT invites Justine to join their group, which advocates for oppressed people. Justine, unsure, takes a flyer from Jonah detailing their next meeting. Meanwhile, Casey teases Jonah and the ACT team. At lunch, Justine and Casey meet with Justine's father, Charles. Justine asks Charles to help women at risk of harsh practices, but is disheartened by his explanation of the complexities of intervening in foreign affairs. To lighten the mood, Charles inquires about a family heirloom necklace, which Justine assures him is safely stored in her dorm. Later in the evening, she attends a meeting with her friend. The focus of the meeting is the preservation of the Amazon rainforests. Alejandro shares with them that a company is clearing these forests in search of petroleum, destroying the native tribes' homes. Justine questions, do we have to endure hunger in the forest to save their homes? Alejandro takes offense at her words and angrily dismisses her from the meeting. That night, she reflects on her actions and finds comfort in her necklace. The following day, Justine offers an apology to Alejandro at the college. Alejandro tells Justine that they should assist the natives because they are deserving. A plan is also formulated to safeguard the forest. They are aware that the company responsible for deforesting the area likely has a military force. The most significant issue they face is the lack of signal. Therefore, they devise a strategy considering the entire situation. Their plan involves visiting the site a day in advance. Once there, they will illicitly gain access to signals and subsequently broadcast live news. By doing this, their video will become viral and they anticipate public support. This would force the company to halt their operations involuntarily. All friends concur with Alejandro's plan. Post-meeting, Alejandro's girlfriend, Kara, questions Justine's motives, hinting that she's noticed how Justine looks at Alejandro. Justine reassures her that she's solely focused on the group's mission. Later, Casey expresses her concerns about Justine's safety, suggesting there are safer ways to contribute. However, Justine reassures her, asserting she'll be fine, and asks Casey not to worry. Justine joins them, making an excuse to her father about the trip. Upon reaching the airport, they meet a boy who is the orchestrator of their plan. He is also collecting funds from them, essentially taking on the responsibility for their expenses. Justine is taken aback, wondering why he is shouldering everyone's costs alone. They then board their small plane. Moving forward, they hire a rickshaw to get to the hotel. Shortly after, they take a boat ride to their destination. Upon arrival, they don uniforms. Alejandro's friend distributes chains and locks to everyone. They use these to chain themselves to the company's bulldozers and trees. However, Justine's lock appears to be defective as it won't lock. All of them get engrossed in the protest, donning masks. Concurrently, the company's security force arrives, and Alejandro captures the event as live news. The security service attempts to detain them, but they are chained and cannot be apprehended. However, security officer seizes Justine because her lock is malfunctioning. The officer starts to threaten Justine, revealing her identity. Justine pleads for Alejandro's help, but to no avail. Instead, Alejandro retorts that her father is a UN lawyer, so if they harm her, they will face consequences. Justine is left helpless, and the security leader receives a call. As a result, all the security personnel lower their weapons. This call was made possible because of Justine, and they were also spared due to her. Upon Upon their arrival, the police arrest them, but the group leader secures their release by paying a bribe. They then continue their journey, boarding the airplane. In the airplane, they are filled with joy, believing they have emerged victorious. Their triumph is even more gratifying because their identities have become known worldwide. They have become a focal point in their country, and their story is a major topic on social media. However, amidst the celebration, 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 is filled with sorrow. She feels exploited by the group and used as a pawn for their survival. But the euphoria is fleeting. Something goes awry with the airplane. Suddenly, the airplane crashes, plummeting into the forest. The crash is catastrophic, claiming many lives. Among the casualties is the leader of the airplane. The joyous atmosphere is replaced with shock and grief as they grapple with the tragic turn of events. Following the crash, Alejandro checks on everyone's condition. The bewildered group exits the plane, and Daniel suggests they need to locate his GPS to signal for assistance. Given that regular cell phones are ineffective in the jungle, the group starts to explore their surroundings. During this, Kara hears a noise and investigates the nearby trees. However, because the group is dressed like petrochemical workers, the natives mistake them as a threat and launch an arrow at Kara, fatally wounding her. Startled, the group flees, but they are all struck by poison darts that knock them unconscious. Later, 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 regains consciousness on a boat with a headhunter and warrior rowing, and she quickly realizes that the other activists are in a similar situation. Upon reaching the village, the villagers, adorned in red paint, welcome them by touching their bodies and expressing gratitude to the spirits for the bounty. The village elder then enters and inspects each of them, giving 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 an approving smile. Following this, she instructs the tribe to confine the students in a pig pen. The group forces their friend to consume a liquid, after which he is laid down in a designated spot. The female chief arrives and gruesomely removes his eyeball, much to the delight of the natives. She later proceeds to remove the second eyeball. In a shocking turn of events, she cuts off and consumes his tongue. Following this, their main chief dismembers his hands and feet, a deeply distressing sight. Despite the horrific ordeal, he remains alive. They then proceed to behead him and collect the blood that flows out, which they drink. It is at this point that it becomes clear that these natives are cannibals. Some of the native women begin to prepare their body parts for cooking. All the while, his friends are forced to witness their companion being cooked right before their eyes. They could also smell him. They all consumed his cooked body parts. The female chief had selected their friend due to his bulky appearance, which made him appear appetizing. They argued at night, realizing that they had neither come here to halt the company's operations nor to become victims. Alejandro states that they did not stop any company. It had all transpired according to a company's plan. Alejandro was self-centered, desiring to make a name for himself globally, and he had succeeded in his plan. Alejandro informs them that the company will arrive, operating their bulldozers, but it will take 3 days for them to get here. However, everyone was distressed, thinking that the cannibals would finish them off within 3 days. Alejandro reassures them, stating that their bulky friend could satisfy their hunger for 3 days. Upon hearing Alejandro's words, their friends are filled with anger. They are appalled at how self-centered he is, especially since he presents himself as a gentleman to the public. Moreover, it was part of his plan to bring 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 along, knowing that her father was a UN member. What better protection could they have than 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮? The next morning, they are awakened by some cannibal children. 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 plays a tune on a flute for a child, which was entangled with her necklace. Subsequently, the headhunter and warriors enter the cage to escort all the women out. The village elder inspects Amy, Samantha, and 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 to determine their purity. However, only 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 passes the test, and they escort her to the village elder's hut. Subsequently, Danielle uses a ringing phone to distract the warrior guarding them, enabling Samantha to escape and hide in a boat by the river. The next day, 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮 returns to the group, her body covered in ceremonial paint, with no recollection of the previous events. However, Danielle discerns that they intend to perform a brutal ritual on 𝐀𝐻𝐨𝐮's private parts, which could result in severe bleeding or infection. Anticipating the worst, he urges the others to plan an escape immediately. Later, Alejandro motivates the others to eat the food scraps given to the pigs by the natives, arguing that they'll need the energy for their escape. Despite being a vegan, Amy consumes the food, but upon recognizing the familiar tattoos on the cooked skin, she realizes they have just eaten Samantha. Overwhelmed by the horrifying reality that she consumed her lover, Amy shatters the bowl, grabs a shard, and slits her own throat. Knowing that the natives will soon collect Amy's lifeless body for their next meal, Lars and Daniel stuff a bag of illicit substances down her throat, hoping to intoxicate the tribe when they consume her. Later, the headhunter retrieves Amy's corpse corpse and prepares her meat for the village feast. As planned, the tribe is stupefied by the substance they ingested. Lars, Daniel, and Justine attempt to flee, but Alejandro incapacitates Lars with a poisoned dart, claiming he needs to be a distraction. Left with no other option, Justine and Daniel run. Lars regains consciousness outside the cage, only to find the substance-hungry natives devouring him alive. Meanwhile, Justine and Daniel discover parts of their aircraft by the river and decide to follow the trail, but Justine accidentally falls into the turbulent river. Fortunately, Justine manages to grab a rock and pull herself out of the river. Hours later, they stumble upon the crash site and find the lifeless bodies of Kara, Carlos, and Brooke, impaled by the tribe. Daniel locates his GPS, but it's out of power. They hear a device on Kara's body, but as they attempt to retrieve it, they are recaptured and taken back to the village. The next day, Justine wakes up covered in an oily substance. Simultaneously, Daniel is tied to a stake, his bones broken with a blunt weapon, causing him immense pain. The natives begin to paint Justine's body, while Daniel is covered in a green substance that attracts ants, resulting in painful bites. The female chief is leading Justine when one of the tribe soldiers brings the head of an individual. Simultaneously, a bulldozer from another company approaches, prompting the entire tribe to leave to confront them. Justine takes this opportunity to try and save her bound friend. He pleads with Justine to end his life and grant him peace, but Justine can't bring herself to do it. Instead, a cannibal child ends his life. Justine then starts running. Taking a phone from her friend's pocket, she comes across Alejandro, who begs for her help, but Justine chooses not to assist him and escape, leaving him behind. A young cannibal girl spots Justine and attempts to capture her with her father. However, a young cannibal boy aids Justine by showing her the way to escape. The cannibal girl arrives, but they allow Justine to leave due to the presence of a wild animal nearby. They assume that the wild animal will end Justine's life. However, unharmed by the animal, Justine continues her journey. Along the way, she witnesses the security service attacking the cannibal tribe. She shows them her phone, trying to signal that she is a survivor. They immediately stop their actions, escort Justine into a helicopter, and ask her if any of her friends have also survived. Justine deceives them by claiming she's the sole survivor, leaving Alejandro at the mercy of the 𝐻𝐻𝐻 tribe. He cries out for help upon seeing the helicopter. Days later, Justine continues her deception, telling her father and government officials that she was the only one who survived the plane crash. She portrays the 𝐻𝐻𝐻s as friendly individuals who assisted her before the arrival of the clearing crew and accuses the militia of massacring the natives. As days go by, Justine is plagued by nightmares of her traumatic ordeal. One day, she is awakened by the sounds of another ACT rally. Looking out the window, she sees members donning shirts bearing Alejandro's face. Some days later, Justine receives a call from a woman she doesn't recognize. The woman introduces herself as Lucia, Alejandro's sister. Lucia reveals that she found satellite images of a person resembling her brother and insists on discussing it with Justine. Despite the tribe's cannibalistic nature, Justine had portrayed them accurately. The movie concludes at this point. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you. Did this story spook you out? Let us know in the comments below. For more horror movie recaps, subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next one. Fear awaits you.